Okay, there's the camera. Let's adjust this a tiny bit. Excuse the mess in this room, please. And yeah, let's get right into it. So I have been starting to do some stuff on YouTube. Obviously, if you've subscribed already, you've seen that we've been doing kit bashing. I'm actually in progress of doing a number of painting tutorials as well. I have maybe you can see it behind me, but I have a lot of different stuff on the painting table at the moment. All of it's looking pretty cool. A bunch of it is the new Indomitus box set. I'm doing some freehand on these with the X's, trying to make my bike's death company. So yeah, I'm working on a lot of different painting stuff as well for YouTube. But today I thought what would be cool would be to jump in. This is my normal streaming setup for some of the other stuff I do, but yeah, I wanted to jump in and look at army lists because I'm in a few groups that are talking a lot about 9th edition, and yeah, I've been back and forth on a few army lists. I've played 9th twice. First game I lost because I failed at a couple of the objectives, just figuring out. I think I lost by 3 points, and at the end of the game I worked out I could have had 6 more points if I'd known what I was doing. So it was to do with the Raise the Banner secondary, and then the second game of 9th I lost again, this time by 10 points. Again, it was objectives that got me, but I actually tabled my opponent and had 900 points left on the battlefield. So this is the list that I used for this second game of 9th, and it's a bit different. So historically I've been using a lot of close combat stuff with Blood Angels. Like I have a large Sanguinary Guard, Sanguinary Priests, used to be running as many as like 6 HQ. You know, in the old edition you would need to run the multiple squadrons of scouts to get high CP. So in that, the byproduct of that was you were able to have a lot of HQ. However, I guess in the new edition you're not able to have quite as many HQ if you want to maximize those command points. So I mean, it's really up to you to decide if you want to maximize your command points. Hello to anyone that's tuning in, and yeah, so I wanted to look at army lists because yeah, there's a lot to say about 9th edition, and I don't have all the models that I potentially want yet, but yeah, so this army list, I guess, was able to table a Sisters of Battle army list that had 3 squads of Repentia. I think it had 6 squads of Battle Sisters and 2 Dominion squads, and then some characters and whatnot. So I was actually really pleased with how this army performed. I should have won the game if I'd done better with my objectives, and at one point I actually moved all my troops off of an objective, because the first game of 9th I played was, if you held the objective it was yours until another unit moved on to it. So I moved off, and I mean that cost me 5 victory points right there. And then in one of the other things I moved, I didn't go for an objective when I should have, so that would have been another 5, and then that would have tied the game, and with the tabling it might have made a bit of a difference. But so yeah, this list, and I guess what I'm going to do in this series where I look at army lists, let me just grab these bad boys in case they are needed. Yeah, so in the series what we'll do is, when we look at army lists, hopefully some of you guys will send me your army lists and we can check them out and we can go over the strengths and weaknesses. But on this first one, I'm going to look at this army list that I made. I always find it's much easier to tweak an army list when you lose a game, because you can instantly see your weaknesses. So when you win a game, you can think your army is the greatest thing ever. Maybe it's not. But yeah, so anyway, without getting too much further into it, we're going to start with the HQ choices that I think are solid choices in 9th. I have another video coming up about Astaroth, but I notice here that he's actually missing a litany, in that Astaroth is actually allowed to have 3 litanies. I guess I only picked 2 because I figure he only cast 2, but yeah, he's not allowed another one. I won't jump into that right now. I think the 2 I picked are very obvious: Catechism of Fire to buff shooting, and Mantra of Strength to buff charging. And then Commander Dante, obviously he is quite strong, especially against characters. I don't think I ever ran Dante in 8th edition, but I'm running him now, and the reason I'm running him now is because he gives me a very good fire base. And then the new Primaris Lieutenant, this guy is a monster. I love him. I think he really has been the MVP of both the games I played. The first game, I think he killed probably like 300-400 points of stuff solo. The second game, he killed Celestine of the Sisters of Battle twice, and some other squads. He's very, very tanky, right? He's 2+, 4+, and with Adamantium Mantle, he has the 5+ Feel No Pain. So 2+, 4+, 5++, and Speed of the Primarch is a really interesting trait. I mean, I feel like Dante and Astaroth's traits aren't super strong, so Speed of the Primarch just essentially lets you always get in there and fight first, even if you were charged. So basically he gets to fight ahead of everything in the battlefield. So if you get him in a good position, then really knowing that you're always going to hit first, and the fact that you'll probably whittle down your opponent enough where they may not be able to kill him. And like I said, he's very strong, and he hasn't died in either game, and this last game they put quite a bit of fire into him and he still had 3 out of his 5 wounds. So I really like this new Primaris Lieutenant. So the idea behind having these 3 characters is Dante will let you reroll everything in the shooting phase, all misses. The Primaris Lieutenant will let you reroll all wounds in the shooting phase, and Astaroth can be used, especially his litany in the turn 1. You can cast Catechism of Fire on some large thing that is shooting to add +1 to wound rolls. In my case, I was casting it on my Repulsor, and the Repulsor, as you know, gets, 2 las cannon shots, 18 heavy assault shots, about 8 Stormbolter shots. There's a stubber on there, there's maybe rocket pods, there's a couple of Crackstorm grenade launchers. Like there's a lot of things that, especially with the rerolls, right, from Commander Dante. In my first game I ran a captain next to the Repulsor, and the captain was okay, but Dante was just crazy. Like it was basically like you're just hitting with everything. So let's look at some of the things that I was using these 3 characters to buff in terms of shooting first, shall we? So if we jump on down, we obviously have a Redemptor Dreadnought, the Macro Plasma Incinerator, the Onslaught Cannon, and Storm Bolters and Rocket Pods. And being next to Dante like this, you can pretty much always shoot your Macro Plasma Incinerator on high power, because if you get any ones, you can probably re-roll them. Mind you, it has 13 wounds, so if it does survive the first few turns fairly intact, then you can pretty much just shoot on high power all the time. And yeah, so this thing deals out a lot of damage. The one weakness I would say is it doesn't have any sort of invulnerable save. So like enemy characters can chew it up in close combat. But in the first couple of turns, having some sort of like Dante, Astaroth. Well, Astaroth's not so important, but Dante and the Lieutenant together buffing the Redemptor Dreadnought is very strong. And as I mentioned, I have a Repulsor also there, very strong. Inside the Repulsor, we put one squad of the new Assault Intercessors, and we also put a Judicar with both an icon of the Angels, which lets him and the Assault Intercessors reroll charges when they come out of the Repulsor if they stay within 3 inches of other. And also, because the Judicar doesn't have any sort of invulnerable save against ranged weapons, I've given him Gift of Foresight here. I know it's only a 6+, Feel No Pain, but I feel like it's worth it, because in the first game I played him, he just got shot off the table, and I think he got shot by like 3 or 4 aggressors, so yeah, it was like 50 shots. He was never going to survive even with an invulnerable save, but just try to make him a little bit more survivable. So yeah, and then the other thing that I've decided that I was going to try and make work in 9th edition was a return of Terminator Squad. So Terminator's obviously got some buffs. In the Storm Bolter, or the Bolter discipline, lets them shoot. The Rapid Fire 2 becomes 4 shots at max range. And if the rumours are to be believed, then Terminators will have 3 wounds very shortly. I actually really loved the Terminators in this game. They did an awful lot of damage, what with their shooting. And yeah, like, I've actually, in this list, the Terminators are all rocking out Chain Fists, because there's a few changes Games Workshop might be making to 9th edition, but these Terminators were all rocking out Chain Fists so that I could get the flat 2 damage. However, it sounds like Power Fists are going to be changed to the flat 2 damage. So yeah, this squad might change, but we had a Terminator squad inside a Land Raider. The Land Raider in the first turn was also within Dante and the Lieutenant's range. So you've got the Land Raider shooting 4 Las Cannon shots, 6 Heavy Bolter shots, and your 8 Storm Bolters potentially. And the Land Raider, on turn 1, I had the Terminators out to raise a banner on the objective. Turn 2, into the Land Raider, move forward. That was my mistake. I should have left a unit of troops on that objective for the extra victory points, but I mean, that's not really a problem with the army. That was more my own stupid fault. So when they do come out of the Terminator, then when they do come out of the Land Raider, there's a great strategy you can play. Fury of the First. As I say, I haven't used Terminators really in 8th at all, because I think at the beginning of 8th, Terminators just had 1 wound, and I tried them a couple of times and was like, nah, these are way overpointed and just garbage. However, at 2 wounds, they're maybe okay, but with them becoming 3 wounds, very much so. I mean, kind of the reason that I wanted them to work in this list was because I really wanted to take the Land Raider again, because Land Raiders have been lowered in points, and the Land Raiders have done really well in both games I've played with them. I mean, it's just a lot of solid firepower every turn. If you're within range of Dante, which you probably will be in the first turn, re-rolling everything, maybe the second turn, and hopefully the Lieutenant is advancing with the Repulsor or the Land Raider, the Dreadnought for like 1 or 2 turns, so you're re-rolling like 1s on all your wounds for the whole turn. It's very strong as well, or it seems very strong. And if Dante does move forward just slowly with that, bearing in mind you can pay like the CP to jump him anywhere on the battlefield. I think it's Upon Wings of Fire, I think, is the name of that stratagem. I always get that confused with the Descent of the Angels. I think Descent of the Angels is the one where you come down from the sky. But and Wings of Fire is the one where you can redeploy anywhere on the board. So let me just double check it. Yeah, so I think they're upping Wings of Fire to 2 CP now. But for 2 CP, you can redeploy anywhere on the board. So we have a Sanguinary Guard that are going to stay off the board in turn 1. They're kind of the only thing that got deep striking. But the idea is that Dante or Astaroth, whoever we feel is going to be more valuable, will join them. The interesting thing about Astaroth is if he is with your other characters, he can cast his litanies, i.e. buff the tank, then cast this is all wrong. It's Mantra of Strength is not. Sorry, I got this wrong earlier. Mantra of Strength is the one that buffs him. It's the... I want to say it's Recanticle of... No. Yeah, sorry. So Canticle of Hate. That's what I think that's what I was supposed to have. So I can buff him. Oh, Battle Scribe is broken here. Yeah, okay, Battle Scribe is broken. This is what confused me then. So I played him with just Catechism of Fire and Canticle of Hate and unticked Mantra of Strength. But if you read the Blood of Baal book 100%, because I read it yesterday to check something for the other video I was doing, let me read this. Yeah, so Astaroth, it says, this model knows Litany of Hate and 3 other litanies. So this is actually broken in Battle Scribe right now. So yeah, although that's saying I can only have... He can cast 2, but he knows 3. I thought you could cast 2, but he only knew 2. So you can have Dante, Astaroth, the Lieutenant, moving forward with this heavy base of fire from the Land Raider, from the Repulsor, from the Redemptor Dreadnought. And at any point, let's say Astaroth buffs one of these vehicles, you could try and cast Canticle of Hate to get the bonus charge roll. And if it does go off, then you could pay Wings of Fire to put him elsewhere on the board and join the deep striking Sanguinary Guard, steal an objective at the back from your enemy, or you could take Dante and jump him to the back or whatever. The way it actually worked in this battle was, I jumped Astaroth to join the Sanguinary Guard. I think we killed a squad of Repentia and then a Repentia Superior, took an objective, and meanwhile Dante jumped forward into the middle and I think he attacked a squad of guys. And yeah, I hadn't really been using Dante for a long time, so what's interesting is he is quite tanky with his 6 wounds. 2+ save, 4+ invulnerable, obviously, but his attacks is really interesting. So it's 6 attacks, so it would be 7 on the charge. If you hit turn 3, it's then 8 with Shock Assault. Remember, you can pay 1 CP as well to Red Thirst for D3 extra attacks. So for 1 CP, Dante can essentially have 11 attacks. He's pretty much going to guarantee... Well, he's hitting on 2s, and he gets to reroll 1s, or reroll all failed misses, I guess. So pretty much hitting on 2s, and then Strength 6. So against the Battle Sisters, he was wounding everything on 2s, but even against a Strength 4, Toughness 4, enemy, where you would normally be wounding on 3s. Remember, he is a Blood Angel, so it's +2s, so he's wounding everything on 2s. So you're averaging around 10 attacks. Pretty much all are going to hit, and then you're wounding everything on 2s, and it's -3. -4 if you're in turn 3 with Doctrine. So yeah, Dante did some serious work. I want to say he just chewed through a squad of, I think it was a squad of 10 or 12 in one turn. He killed 9 of them, and then they lost a couple from unit coherency because he was trying to take some of the... he was trying to hold on to an objective, so he lost some in unit coherency, and then the Death Mask meant that they failed their leadership, and the whole squad was gone. So... yeah, Dante, comparing him to a Smash Captain is really interesting now. Before, I pretty much never ran Dante, always ran the Smash Captain, but with increased cost on the Thunderhammer points, it's kind of interesting to think that those additional rerolls in turn 1 and 2 could make Dante worth it. For me anyway, my shooting phase in both games has been crazy good. I've been really pleased with my shooting phase. And also, yeah, in the Sisters of Battle game, I tabled the guy with over 900 points left on the battlefield. Yes, I lost the game on points, but it was just, as I say, it was one mistake that I didn't keep troops on objective, my own fault, 5 points there, and another one where I didn't move on to an objective where I should have. I was going to lose some units anyway, I didn't want to lose them. If I'd moved them on, I could have probably taken losses, or I could have totally taken losses with 900 point difference. So... Yeah, so this is an interesting list if you want a bit of balance, right? So you have a balance of a really good shooting phase. You also have a Land Raider that can move up 10, full of Terminators. And when the Terminators come out, there's the 1 CP strategy called Fury of the First. So you pay 1 CP until end of phase. When you resolve an attack by that model, you add 1 to the hit roll. So all your Terminators were essentially hitting on 2s. The heavy weapon would hit on 3s because Terminators still suffer the -1 penalty from heavy weapons, or at least that's what I played. I hear there's a rumour that maybe that's changing, but right now, yeah, like, so my Stormbolters are hitting on 2s, Salt Cannon hitting on 3s. Again, it's Sisters of Battle, so it's wounding everything in that second game with the Terminator squad. I tried a close combat Terminator squad in the first game, and they came out, failed their charge, which is always what happens with close combat Terminators, and then they got mowed down by like 10 aggressors. The list I was actually playing against had like 18 aggressors in it. It was a horrible, horrible Ultramarines list, which I would have beaten. So I thought I'd change these because I felt like Chain Fists, or in this case, I guess if they change it to Power Fists, they're really not that much shabbier than the Thunder Hammers and the Lightning Claws. And the fact that you get, even if you just got everybody with Stormbolters, now, you know, they're rapid fire 2, so it's 4 shots per Terminator. So even if you only have Stormbolters, you get 20 bolter shots when they disembark. And I guess their engagement range is essentially 20 inches because they can come out Land Raider 3 away from it, move 5, and then charge like 12 essentially. So it is 20. But coming out 8, hosing down a squad of something, and then charging to finish them off seemed to be quite effective. I think with 3 wounds, I can definitely see Terminators coming back into the battle. Sanguinary Guard are always good. I mean, there's no real changes to them as far as I'm aware. The point changes are maybe fine. Like, they've made the swords and the power fists pretty much the same point, so you can equip them however you want. Technically, in this group, I don't have any pistols. And I think the pistols are maybe not needed so much now. I have a full squad of Sanguinary Guard with like all the weapon options, but honestly, I think I'm going to get some more with just the Angelus Bolters. I think that's a good solid option for them now. The Judicar in close combat, he did okay. I wasn't super impressed with him, but he is only 85 points, and he was fighting multiple enemies and foes, but he survived fine. So if there was one thing that I wasn't pleased about in the list, it would be the Judicar, but I'm going to run him a few more times just to see if I can to make him fit. The bikes, I was a bit disappointed there's no stratagems that can help these bikes out. You would think that they would have like an overcharge or something, or a turbo boost. I think they have a turbo boost where you get to add 6 to advance, but yeah, there's no stratagems that I can see that really help the bikes out, which is a little disappointing. And then scouts and intercessors. Intercessors are always a solid choice. I mean, they just hold objectives. They usually kill things with their bolt rifle. They're decent in close combat. This list actually needs change to mention that the sergeant has a chain sword because it's free. No, we don't replace the rifle, we just take a chain sword here. And then squad of scouts just to make up points. I'm very interested to see what's going to happen with tactical squads, and the rumour is now that tactical squads will have 2 wounds. So yeah, that'll be interesting, and I may in the very near future look at a list where we look at like quote unquote old Marines and see how we could do with them, because yeah, the interesting thing about the old Marines is, or the issue that I've got right now is, I still think it's kind of a silly rule in that like Land Raiders can't transport Primaris and Repulsors can't transport old Marines. Like, I'm pretty sure that in the 41st millennium, with all their millions of tanks in the world, one of the first stipulations would be like, hey, if we're going to build a new Marine, maybe you should fit in the current tanks. Or if we're going to build new tanks, maybe it'd be useful if the old Marines could fit in them. I mean, that's my personal opinion. So that's why maybe I'll have a look at a more old Marines list. The one thing that I do like about the Land Raider versus the Repulsor does have more firepower against, or more varied firepower, but you could get that with a Land Raider with like a Crusader, maybe with a multi-melt on top of it. The interesting thing is that the Land Raider obviously saves on the 2+, and that can make a big difference when you're getting hit with some stuff like melta-guns or las cannons. I mean, it just makes the save a little bit more sane, and my Land Raiders have really survived well. I guess the only reason they weren't really used in 8th edition was they were 2 points heavy. So definitely going to run a Land Raider and the Terminators. In fact, quite a bit of this list is going to stay the same. I have some ideas. I've been... yeah, we're going to save this. Have been making a bunch of different lists to look at as we jump into 9th edition. So if you want to check some of those out with me, that'd be very cool. Yeah, so what else is there to say about this list then? Not too much. I mean, I'd be interested to hear what comments people have on how this list could be better. And I think the big change for me anyway is there's no Death Company, which is a bit annoying because I just painted a massive Death Company. If they become 2 wounds, then I could see me dropping some things to get Death Company in here. Again, I'm maybe a little bit hampered by the 2 sides, as in like the Primaris and the Old Marines. But yeah, I hope if you've watched the video, let me know your thoughts. Yeah, so I think the other thing to talk about with strategy, maybe with this list, was then we don't have a lot of deep strikers. We have the bikes that can hopefully move out and secure objectives, but it's very much a move forward slowly with a very strong base of fire, waiting for turn 3. What I've found with Blood Angels is once we hit turn 3 in melee combat, we are disgustingly powerful. The thing I have to always tell myself is to not engage in combat too early, because quite often I've like charged in turn 2 and I haven't done the damage that I've needed to, and it's come back and hurt me. So by having that crazy heavy close combat list, although it has worked and I have had strength with it against other Marine players, like really good strength with it against other Marine players, against some other armies types that have kind of come unstuck. And also one of my friends plays Ultramarines, and that was the list that I was talking to you about with 18 aggressors in it. Ultramarines are so shooty, and they have like a stratagem where they can almost like all overwatch together, or everything around. I think it's called like Base of Fire or something. And I've had horrible experiences with it where I've lost like whole squadrons of guys who have been trying to do charges. And yeah, so I feel like in this list I'm trying to do a balance of both. So we're Space Marines, Blood Angels, and Space Marines are notoriously good in shooting. I mean, like, we're probably only second to maybe like Tau in terms of shooting in the 40k universe. So use that strength. Make sure you whittle down your enemies a bit, and then be ready in turn 3 to get your Terminators into close combat, get that Redemptor Dread into close combat, drop down the Sangre Guard. I mean, bring them down in turn 2 if you want. I'm not saying never bring stuff down in turn 2. I'm just saying be aware that turn 3 is really where we shine in close combat. And we have plenty of ways to whittle down the enemy before then. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on the list in the comments below. If you have some lists, I'd love to see some guys share some lists, and we can jump into them on the next live stream. And if not, then I will find maybe this Old Marines list, and I'll talk to you about my idea about Old Marines, especially with all the rumours coming out that like bolt guns are going to be better and Old Marines are going to have 2 wounds. Yeah, so I think there's a lot to be excited about with the 9th edition, and yeah, thanks again for checking out the video and checking out the channel, and I will see you in the next one. Until next time, peace.